Hi, how is everyone doing? Hope you're doing very, very well. Hope you've been well since the last time I was here. Okay, and it's also my hope that everything is going fine on your end. Well, I am fine. I've been fine, and I thank God for that. Um, and I'm grateful for being here. If you're new here, feel very much welcome. And if you're not subscribed yet to my channel, why don't you consider subscribing? Sawa sawa. Yes. Now, today I'm going to be talking about my experience of childhood trauma. I'll not go so deep into it, but I'll just touch roughly on a few occurrences that caused or brought about trauma in my childhood. Okay. Now, before I continue, there's a video I made sharing a story of the experience of my son at school with a particular individual. And a few days ago, I was in school and a very interesting comment from someone came about, which I would also like to share with you guys. And that person told me that I spoke for 100 other parents who were probably afraid of speaking, or just they just didn't know how to air their grievances to the administration of the school in regards to the very same individual I seemed to be having an issue with. Okay, so this person told me that when that individual finally left, some parents now were coming to the office to tell them things like, even my child had started urinating on themselves. Okay, mtoto wangu alikuwa ameanza hata kujikojolea. And what does that tell you? That tells you that that child had been put in, fear had been put in that child, which caused distress to them, and that is why they were going back to behaviors or things that they used to do, which they had stopped doing. Okay, now that is that. Sasa leo, today I'll be sharing about my childhood trauma, and I'll put a disclaimer that this is purely my experience. Okay, so if anyone feels offended by it, well, I don't know how I can help you with that, because personally, the individual who went through this childhood trauma that I'm going to be talking about has gone for therapy, I've sought help, and I have healed from it. But it is still important that I put it out there so that other parents can know that these things happen, these things have been happening, and maybe in one way or another, we can try to be different parents to our children. Sindo? Eh? Sasa mimi, I grew up in a family with a father and a mother. Okay. Now, I loved my father to death, and I also loved my mother. I was an only child for 11 years. No, 13 years actually. So I was a daddy's girl. The entire 13 years, I was a daddy's girl. Sasa, shida ilikuwa, my father really loved the bottle, okay? The brown bottle. My father and alcohol walikuwa mabeshi. And his drinking would uh, cause him to be violent, okay? When he drank, let me put it this way, when he took alcohol, he would be very violent to my mother. Now, as a young little girl, there are memories that I still have of repercussions of his alcoholism. And one particular, no, I'll give you two or three particular instances which have refused to leave my mind. Now, the first instance was one day he came, he was drunk, and he took a panga and he wanted to slash my mother out of earth. Okay. So I was very young. I don't remember how old I was, but I was very young. Hata sidhani nilikuwa nimeingia shule. And if I was in school, I must have been either in nursery school or pre either class 1, 2, or 3 at the time. So there I was. My mom came to seek refuge in my bedroom, and I was standing. Our house was wooden. Okay, so that is a temporary house. So nilikuwa nasimama mbele ya mamangu. I was in front of my mom. Okay, I was shielding my mom, the short me, and she was behind me crying. And of course, other people uh, in our homestead who had had those noises, of course, they came and tried to help out. And there I was trying to shield my mother from my father, ndio asislashiwe na panga. That is one incident. Okay. The second incident is where I remember one day my mom was seated on a chair. Okay, alikuwa amefungwa na kamba, and she was being beaten from that chair. I was still a very, very young girl at the time. In fact, I was younger than hiyo time. I think nilikuwa nursery school. So those are two memories that have refused to leave my mind. Okay. And the third memory was us. Now, when every time my dad came home and uh, he started being violent, my mother and I would always seek refuge from her friend, and that friend's house was quite a distance from our home. So the memory I remember is that of my uncle, the brother to my father, taking us. That was around midnight, if I'm not wrong. Hizo masaa, midnight, my 2 a.m., taking us to my mom's friend's place, okay, so that we can sleep there. Now, before I even go further, what is childhood trauma? For someone who's wondering, hey, what is this lady talking about? I hope I'm loud enough, and I don't know what's happening to my voice because I can hear some horse sound. So, childhood trauma is a scary or dangerous or violent event that overwhelms a child's ability to cope. So now, what that childhood trauma, that is just like a tip of the iceberg of the childhood trauma that I experienced, okay? So what this childhood trauma did to me was that it always gave me nightmares. If I remember my childhood correctly, being at home, I always had nightmares. And at some point, I couldn't sleep. Literally, I couldn't sleep. And I still remember the kind of nightmares I used to have. Nikifunga tu macho hivi nikilala, I start seeing snakes. Huko. And of course, imagine that scenario. That's a scary scenario to a child, right? Yes. So when it got too extreme, my mother took me to a counselor. Okay. I don't remember what happened. I don't remember the conversation that I was very young, the conversation that went about with the counselor, but I remember my mother took me to a counselor because the nightmares were getting out of hand. Okay. And then also, besides that, every time I would hear my dad, ndio huyo amefika, I would feel some pain in my stomach. Is it pain? There's a way my stomach would react, and I remember shaking under my blanket. Okay, yes, those are a few things that I remember. Now, um, because I think my mom saw what that was doing to me, and she decided to take me to a boarding school. Okay, and that boarding school, I was taken to boarding school when I was 9 years old. Class 4, 9 years old or 10 years old. Yes, I was 9 years old in class 4 in a different school. But to join this boarding school, you had to join in class 4. That usually ilikuwa inaanzia class 4. So I had to repeat so that I can join in class 4. So niliingia shule at 10 years old. Ndio niingia class 4. Sawa. Kujoin other upper classes, I think sidhani kuna watu walikuwa na join hizo upper classes. Ni uingie class 4 uendelee huku juu. Now, the reason my mom took me to boarding school is because she saw my daughter, hizi vurugu ziko home, these issues that are at home, of course they are affecting her. So she took me out of our home to the boarding school as a way of protecting me or as a way of giving me some solace. Okay. Now, unfortunately, the boarding school I was taken to was one that was run by nuns. Okay, it was a Catholic. Uh, it was a Catholic school, a church school. Is it church schools? And unfortunately, the nuns were very harsh, extremely harsh to us. And now that I remember my experience there, I would say it felt like I was taken from home and taken to a mini prison. Okay, is it a mini prison? I was taken to a prison because the experience there was equally as traumatic as home was for me. Okay, so while the boarding school would have been a solace for me or a place where I would feel safe and secure, it didn't feel that way to me. And I'll give you one particular, besides your chapwa, mazetu tulikuwa tunachapwa. And somehow I feel that this hard-headedness of mine came from the kind of experience that I experienced in that specific boarding school. Now, this specific time, so what used to happen, tulikuwa tunaamka 5:30. We used to wake up at 5:30. You bathe with cold water. When you're reporting, one of the requirements was you carry a metal bucket. Sasa. So, jioni, you needed to fetch your water. Sawa. Unaiweka mahali penye unajua hapa ndio nitakuwa naogea. And it was outside. It was outside. It was just a secured area where we would all bathe from. Okay, the girls. So let me make this. So ukienda ukiweka maji yako jioni, si asubuhi unajua penye itakuwa. So uende uoge, you should have bathed within 10 minutes. Okay, and the school was located at the slopes of a certain hill. So it was an extremely cold area, extremely cold area. So the water you're bathing with in the morning is extremely cold. Sawa? So ni uoge haraka haraka in 10 minutes. Go dress up, rush out. Your time, of course, you will have made your bed, rush out, and go to church. Okay? Go to the Catholic church. There's a Catholic church just outside the gate of the school. Penye tulikuwa tunaenda mass every morning. I think, did we used to go to church in the morning and in the evening? I don't remember very well. Sasa, one very outstanding traumatic event for me was one day I was still in class 4. Remember, I was a daddy's girl, okay? And mimi sikuwa nimejifulia nguo until when I went to that school where now it's you and your God, okay? If you didn't know how to wash your clothes, it's entirely up to you. As long as the school administration and the teachers expect you to go to class with a clean dress. If you're one of those people who wet the bed, don't smell urine as you're going to class. Don't. So figure out how you won't smell urine as you're going to class. So for me, there was this particular time. Sasa, my mom had bought for me some cotton underpants. Okay. Na hizo, that place was very cold. So, ukianika your underpants outside, you know everyone is anchoring there. The chances of you not getting it were higher than the chances of you getting it where you had hanged it. So now me, I improvised this thing of nikiosha. We were sleeping on metal beds. So when I wash after bathing in the morning, sinitaanika yangu chini ya bed. Okay, me the naive little girl in class 4 who has just come from home and has come to this new environment, this school. I'm learning these new skills of washing my clothes, you know, kuchagua maharagwe, mahindi, and all that, everything you can think of. So now, see, mimi nimeosha. I've washed my panties, my cotton underpants, and put it under the bed so that it can dry. Because if I put it outside, it's going to be stolen. Ikibiwa, will I walk to class without an underpant? No, I think I had 3 panties, if I'm not wrong. So, after some time, of course, my underpant is going to rust because I've put it under the bed. It's a metallic bed. It is wet. So what do you expect? It's going to rust. All right. So they used to check us. Walikuwa natuangalia. I don't, my memory is scanty about that specific experience, but I don't remember if they used to check our underpants, if they were clean or what. So this one day they checked us, okay? Mimi wakanipata, si nimevaa my underpants, okay? Si imerust. And I think it was during the cold season. It was always very cold in February. And I remember that time, because of the cold, I always used to fura this specific hand. And my birthday is on 27th February. So every time my parents are coming, and coincidentally, the visiting days used to be fall under where my birthday is, 27th February, up on Folia. So every visiting day when my mother is coming, when my parents are coming to visit me, I always used to, nilikuwa nimefurahi kidole juu hiyo baridi. I don't know what it's called. And then, see, yeah, you get my point. So now, when they checked my underpants, it's rusted. I think it was not even completely dry. They took me to the staff room. The staff room has all the teachers, right? Yes. So I was paraded. There I am, me, my dress imeinuliwa juu, and they're parading for every teacher to see this girl who is wearing a wet underpant, which is also rusted. That is one specific memory that has never left my mind. And I was like, to date, I'm like, that should not have happened. It should not have happened. Kuna twingine tudogo twenye siwezi kumbuka vizuri, but I'm sure those who we went to that school with, wekeni zenu hapo kwa comment section. Ingine that I remember very well was one night when tulikuwa kwa dorm usiku in the dormitory. So of course, see, there will be whispers. Those nuns used to come, inaitwa aje ile kuja kuangalia kama watu wamelala. So akisikia kwa dirisha mamas, nyinyi wote mnatoka nje. So I remember this specific day we tuliambiwa all the dorms, I think there were 4 dormitories. Get out in your night dresses. To kind of assembly. It was around 2 a.m. ama 1 a.m. I don't remember. I'm midnight hapo. I don't remember. tulilala kwa assembly ground, and of course canes, we were beaten. Well, the positive side of me being in that school is that it made me very tolerant, and it made me ilinifanya nikuwe ka hardcore kidogo. So there's a hardcore side of me that came from being in that school. Also, personally, me as Julia, who had come from a home that was full of violence, okay, domestic violence, me going to that school and experiencing those traumatic events, you know, made it worse, made my childhood trauma worse. Because I believe there are students who were in that school who had a very happy and peaceful home, such that they would come from school and go home, and home, being home, in the happy home they were in, the traumatic events that have happened in school for that term would be undone by that now happy environment at home. That is something that I didn't get to have. Sour. Yes. Now I have shared a tidbit of my childhood trauma, and I must say that it's good to say that I think when I was in form in 2003, yes, I was in form. I left class 8 in 2001, so 2002 I was in form 1. 2003 I was in form 2. Form 2, that is when my father gave up drinking. Okay, and I always wish that he had given up drinking earlier on. Yes. So what has my childhood trauma taught me now that I'm a parent, that I should do my best to be a better parent to my children than I was parented. You get? Yes, that I can prevent, that I can give my children a safe space and a safe place that would undo any harm that is done outside their home. That is the safe space. So what's up? Yes, feel free to share your childhood trauma if you had any. And thank you for watching up to here. Goodbye.